Globespan is a Guyanese dialogue moving towards the realization of one nation in one Guyana. It's a platform that offers an all-inclusive discussion with the pros, the cons, the ones that have taken a side, and the ones that stand in the middle. Globespan believes agreeing and disagreeing are part of the nation building. Globespan believes that every Guyanese voice is part of the nation building. As we span the globe for voices from the diaspora and those living home, we stand on our commitment that we are all Guyanese working towards one nation in one Guyana.
This land is our land now.
As the world turns on its axis, bringing changes, we as Guyanese must adapt to those changes for a better Guyana for all. Globespan stands on its axis with its belief that one nation, one Guyana, one destiny must include voices from all corners of Guyana.
We ain't giving up no river that belong to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain.
Welcome to Globespan Television 24/7. We are broadcasting in Guyana, in the Caribbean, in the diaspora, and around the world. Globespan Television is owned and operated by Mr. Noir Singh. Our two technical directors are Mr. Devin Bissoon and Mr. Ryan Gobin. We are a fair and balanced network, meaning that we will invite anyone from any political party, civic or religious organizations to come on the program to air their views. And in doing so, we want to let the audience know that we can agree to disagree. And that's primarily the basis of Globespan. Tonight, as we on the program here, myself and Mr. Noir Singh will actually host the program, and we'll be talking about the elections and so forth, how it went on during the day and what's happening right now as we speak. I want all our audience to know that the views expressed by our guests are solely theirs and not necessarily those of the management and staff of Globespan Television. And at the same time, I want to make it abundantly clear to some of our viewers who are making the fallacious claim that I'm being paid by the government or agents of the government. Let me make it pellucid to everyone tonight again. And this is about the fifth time I'm doing this. I'm not being paid by the Ghana government. Not a dime. And no private contractors or companies are paying me on behalf of the government. I've not received a dime from anyone in Guyana. So please stop those false rumors that you're all peddling. Not because I'm coming to Guyana spending a month or 2 months. Oh, Dr. Rose is poor. How he got money to stay at the hotel so long? You don't know myself. You don't know my income. So don't make those fallacious statements. Anyone can come to Guyana and spend 6 months if they wanted. So please don't make that statement. Let me repeat. I am not being paid by the Guyana government. I'm not being paid by any contractor, any business personnel on behalf of the Guyana government. I've not received a dime from anybody. So I want to make this clear to everyone. Stop peddling false information. Thank you very much. Tonight we have our guest, Mr. Leland Rupnarayan. He's a political analyst, and Dr. Terence Blackman. We're supposed to have also Dr. Vishnu Bisram, but no one knows where he is at the moment, and Mr. Paul Tennessee. Somehow they can't make it, but we'll continue with our analysis and we report calling to different regions. I have the phone number for all the mayors for the 8 regions to find out how the election went today and what's taking place right now with the counting and so forth. So we'll get reports from each of the regions as we go through the program. So Mr. Noir Singh, first time we're hosting together. Thanks for hosting with me tonight. I know it's a big election night. We were supposed to have 4 guests, but we only have 2. And we're going to make good use of the 2. So in stating that, Mr. Noir Singh, you want to say anything or you want me to continue?
No, go ahead, Dr. Rose, you continue.
Okay. Let me ask Mr. Leland Rupnarayan first this question. Mr. Rupnarayan, these elections were planned for a good while now, almost 3 months ago, for September 1st. And today is September 4th, and the voting has taken place. Have you heard anything whatsoever about the elections? Give us an outline of what you heard or what you know that is taking place. And it's a broad question, but you have only 2 minutes to answer it, though. Leland?
Oh, I haven't heard anything much about the elections. I spoke to people in mostly region 3, 4, and 6, where most of my friends are. The elections doesn't have a high turnout, and it's been calm, and it's been proceeding at a very slow pace, and there haven't been any provisions for handicapped people or pregnant mothers. So that's something this GCOM should look at. However, this election is as much as it's a free election, it's not a fair election, because the PPP government has basically usurped all the media. So when you look at NCN, for instance, and there are 20 advertisements or 20 news flashes, 18 is PPP rallies. So it's a horrible story. Additionally, this election has been a very bland process, the campaign process, because there have not been any public debates. And it has been tainted with opposition's members, namely WIN, being denied their right to hold meetings and being denied their right to travel, because at Blackbush, a week before the election, they held up the vehicle of Mr. Azruddin, the presidential candidate for WIN, We Invest in Guyana, at Blackbush, stating that the car is tinted and he wasn't allowed to pass. He went to the Skellon meeting 2 hours late. That's a very unfair practice. That's what the PNC used to do when the PPP was in the opposition. So they should know better than that. Additionally, the bus transporting WIN supporters in Rupununi had to pull over at the side of the road and discharge the passengers upon instructions from a well-known PPP connected camp person. And that's public knowledge as well. So these are not, these are not proper incidents that will cause you to think that this government, this PPP government, has done logically, and what the word is compassionately and objectively and legally in producing a free and fair election. Especially when you have an attorney general who should be the smartest person in the PP, the chief lawmaker, telling people that it is okay to be a house slave. No one is a house slave. And
Okay.
if you think of you as a house slave and he fought and gave his life for freedom for slavery, he's a hero, in my opinion, whether he's a house slave or any form of slave. The bottom line is people like Nandalal and company, they are nothing but freedom house slaves.
Okay, good. It's 20 minutes before 8 o'clock, 7:40 tonight, as we start the countdown on the elections. Now, Mr. Norris, you can jump in anytime you want. Dr. Blackman, I want to ask you this question. Analysts are saying that the race has boiled down between 3 parties: the PVP, APNU, and WIN, We Invest in Nationhood. Is that the same analysis you're getting? And if so, tell us what you know about the races among the 3.
Well, let me say good night. Thank you, Dr. Rose, and thank you, Sanohar Singh, and it's a pleasure to be on with you, Leland, and certainly to thank the audience for being here this evening. I actually I'll answer the question in a moment, but I actually wanted to say, it's I want to really thank folks for joining us. I mean, I think Guyana has completed really one of the most consequential elections in our history, and at this moment it seems that we've done this very peacefully. There have been some isolated, as far as I can determine, incidents. We've had the incident of some people. I mean, certainly, so I'll speak to matters related to the earlier question, and we've had incidents of people saying that their names were not on the list, but it seems that subsequently people found their names. We saw earlier a kind of little flashpoint around the Bangladeshi Commonwealth nationals who showed up to vote at some place, but I think Over time, people recognize that our laws prescribe for Commonwealth folk to vote if they meet certain criteria. And I don't think any evidence suggested that these folks haven't met that criteria. So in that sense, I want to really commend, our folks for having really, given the 83,000 square miles, I would think a relatively incident-free election in a very contentious moment. And I want to, express my hope that we will continue to be peaceful and we will continue to abide by the laws throughout the process that we're engaged in. And now to your specific question, I think it's quite clear. I mean, there are 3 blocks that will be formed here. There's the PPP, they're the incumbent party, and they're the force that is perhaps the largest unified force. And the APNU, I think, did a lot to kind of really sharpen their poverty-based message. And so I think that they have held some aspects of their traditional base together. And there's no question that Win was and is an insurgent. And so I think any betting person will be looking at a parliament that is constituted by 3 blocks: the Win block, the APNU block, and the PPP Civic block.
Okay, I'm just getting reports here that contrary to, and I don't criticize my guess, but GCOM expected turnout of almost 80%. They said it was higher than normal, especially in the rural areas and in the urban centers as well. So they expected turnout to amount to about 80%. The main voters this morning before 11 o'clock, between 6 and 11, and between 4 and 6. Those are the 2 major time slots that the turnout was extremely large. So with that said, I just want to ask you, Mr. Leland, Rupnarayan, WIN party was founded just 3 months ago in early July. And since then, they've been attracting extremely large crowds. What can you say accounted for this phenomenon, Mr. Rupnarayan?
Disillusionment of the ruling party and the previous ruling party. People are fed up with both PPP and PNC, and they're looking for new programs, new policies, new personnel. Based on the support that WIN has, we can see that Guyanese are not easily fooled by what PPP calls sanctions and tax evasion. For instance, Guyanese should understand when someone has been accused, not accused and charged of tax evasion, it's at this juncture, it's more of a form of vindictiveness rather than a legal process. And understand this, while someone may have been evading taxes, ask yourself this: gold under declaration of gold, as he's accused of. How did this take place? Understand this: one does not export gold by the thousands of ounces without high officials being involved in it. Secondly, who was the head of the gold board 5 years ago? The daughter of the president, Donna Ramutar, she was the head of the gold board. So we can extrapolate and make our own inferences. But coming back to why WIN is such a popular party, it is simply because people looking for younger leadership, new leadership and policies, and it's a reaction to the old order of friends and family getting all the benefits of both coalition government and the PPP government. You see, in as much as PPP is promising to they've promised to end corruption, they've promised to have access to information, the Freedom of Information Act will be enacted, and the question will remain, why do you put such thing in your manifesto when you have power right now to start doing it right now? You don't have to promise in your manifesto we will end corruption, we will change policies, and we will have fair, equitable distribution of contracts. You are in power. You should be doing that right now. And these campaign promises of both PPP and PNC are just hogwash. Remember, especially Vice President Barjade, who was so vociferous in stating he will renegotiate the oil contract. Public knowledge. He has bitterly criticized the oil contract. What is Mr. Jagdev doing now? Jagdev is in bed with Exxon, giving away the country's patrimony. When you think about Algeria owing taxes, the Guyana government has given Exxon 5.2 billion in tax certificates for the past 5 years. They're not making this public. Secondly, when you think that people are stealing from the treasury by not paying taxes, the Chinese, the Canadian gold company are getting away with billions of dollars in gold without declaring it to the gold board and giving Guyana, I think, about 10% of profits. Remember, under the Ramotar government, by Shanlin, the Chinese logging conglomerate, got 1.25 million acres of land. Isn't that why would you give away the country's resources without parliamentary approval? Ghana doesn't belong to Jagdeo. It doesn't belong to Granger, Ramotar, and Norton. Ghana belongs to the people of Ghana. And the people of Ghana should have a say in how their resources are being valued and distributed and how we should benefit from it. This is not a one-man show. When you think about Algeria owing $800 million in duties for some people, that comes to about $4 million. $4 million is a joke. The Chinese company take out $40 million a week in gold. The oil companies take out $40 million a day. So we have to really reevaluate what we call duties and concessions, because any company can come into that country and get 15, 20 years duty-free concessions. And as much as tax holidays can benefit investment, this is not a tax holiday. This is just a free holiday.
Okay, thanks. I've been getting reports that there have been glitches in New Amsterdam this morning, but it's been solved. Skeldon, Sophia, Linden. Linden, as I said, had a blackout just after the polls had closed, but the power is back on now. And a couple of other areas, but it's not anything major. So those issues have been solved, and thank to God for that, because we don't want any problems at all. Now, Mr. Blackman, let me ask you this question. When Mr. Mohammed, Azarundin Mohammed, did not campaign much, he's not the public speaker to talk much like the other party leaders and so forth. He said very few things, like raising income tax threshold. He talks about increasing pension to $100,000. This because we care program to $100,000 as well, from $55,000 to $100,000. Public assistance from $22,000 to, I think, $60,000 or $50,000 and so forth. But why did he attract so much attraction, especially from the young people? Because when you look at this crowd, you can see under 35 years old are the vast majority of his supporters. Why do you think that happened, Mr. Blackman, Dr. Blackman?
So I think I had the benefit of looking at all of the party closing remarks, the party's closing, ceremony, so to speak, the APNU at the Square of the Republic, and the PPP at, I think it was Lusiknan, and Mr. Azardin Mohammed's at the Marriott. And it actually caused me to think that I was looking at two different Guyanas, in the sense that and I think this is also the source of the appeal, in a sense that the language of Mr. Mohammed, the way in which things were presented, the style of the communication, I think all they're new within the context of the Guyana electoral setup. I thought you just mentioned, I thought the APNU were really effective in talking about their program for economic I thought the PPP was effective in saying, look, we've done these things. But I also thought, and this goes to the heart of the point that Leland just made, I thought that for all that was said and all that has been done, I think there was a space there for someone like Muhammad to say, you know what? I genuinely care about you. These people have said that they've cared about you, and you've seen what they've delivered. And you know me, and you know what I've done in my philanthropy and all of these other things. And he communicated that message extremely effectively in a very modern way. And I thought that in some very interesting way, that was the source of the appeal. You know, the communication strategy of the Win Party is a modern communication strategy that is much more in sync with our young people. So even though, you know, his plans kind of seemed, you know, on the surface similar. I mean, I looked through the manifestos and did the kind of analysis that people will do with manifestos. And it's clear that, you know, fundamentally, it's just another one of these things. I think the young people.
Dr. Blackburn, just hold your thought for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm on with the mayor of Bartica, Mayor Murray. Mayor Murray is Dr. Rose here from Globespan Television. Tell us how the election went. Tell us how the election went, and
throughout the voting areas that we had within the township and the riverine areas, everything went smooth, no hiccups and no disturbance. All was calm and everything went well. And until the end of the polls, closing of the polls, everything went well. No disturbance, no hiccups.
what was the turnout like? Low, moderate, high?
I could, based on what we observed, not low, but not high, too high either, in between.
Okay. And when you think we're going to get the results, when the votes will start be counted in Bartica, if they haven't started as yet?
Once the small numbers, anytime they will start coming in, it can start. But the small numbers won't take too long. But the bigger figures will probably around 9:30, you know, which they will start getting figures.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, His Worship. Thank you very much. If needs be, I'll come back to you. Pardon me?
You're welcome, my sir. You're welcome, Doc. Have a great night.
You too. Take care. Thanks.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Black. Everyone heard that. Okay, Mr. Blackman, continue.
No, I think the point I was making was that, you know, watching the program, there was a simplicity and a directness of the message that Azzuddin Mohammed communicated. And, you know, I think the sense that he was perceived, I could sense that from the program. He was perceived as being authentic, right? And I think that this is something that, you know, young people globally and in Guyana sort of, you know, respond to, right? They don't want the kind of rehearsed sort of political speech that kind of feels like, you know, and he projected that kind of sincerity. I mean, he had his father introduce him at the program and so on. And I think this is an effective contrast with the established kind of political style. And you know, rather than, you know, like the fiery rhetoric, I mean, it was like a quiet, you know, he literally spoke in like really small paragraphs. It's a quiet, you know, understated approach, sort of like, you know, we're going to, you know, he did something I thought was very powerful. He said, let's have in the middle of the campaign speech, when everyone wants to tell you what they want to do, he said, you know, let's have a minute of silence for the Henry Boys and Harris Singh and Adriana Young. And so I feel like that focus on dignity and on security and on caring for the vulnerable. I think those are the issues that I perceived as really, and certainly you can't count out the social media amplification. I think of all of the groups, I think his group has used the social media amplification to really good effect.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mr. Noor Singh, it's 7:57. You can jump in.
Sure, sure. And thank you, Dr. Rose, for this opportunity to co-host with you. I want to go straight to the issue of the voting today. And it behoves us tonight, if we do not compliment the people of Guyana, that the grace of God has been extended. I don't think we have ever seen a day like today in the past in terms of the way the voting process, notwithstanding those few incidents that you mentioned, Dr. Rose. Certainly, I think this is a positive step forward. So I really want to compliment the people of Guyana, and we want to thank God for His mercy and extending His hands over Guyana while we go through this process of changes that can be about, positive towards our country. Going to Professor Blackman. Professor Blackman, you head up the mathematics division in Medgar Evers, and you probably crunched the numbers back and forth many times over than I have. If it is that, well, the Bartica mayor mentioned the turnout may have been more mediocre. Dr. Rose mentioned earlier that he have information that the turnout was in the 80. If that's the fact, or anything close to that, Professor, would it make it harder for any government to, any political party to gain that 33 seats? Because the pro rata will say that you need over 8,000 votes to gain a seat. Professor?
This I think a low turnout, in some sense, it doesn't just reduce. I mean, I think what your audience should know in terms of the way Guyana's election is structured. So, this idea, we use something called the here quotas. And so you essentially, look at the number of seats and you look at the number of valid votes and you figure out, what's the cost per seat. So what a low turnout would do, it would reduce in some way the cost per seat. And so it would certainly impact all of the parties in a certain, but it would strengthen the hand of the smaller groups, right? So it would strengthen the hands of the not large parties. And so once again, I think this makes for very, a few ballots less in, say, for example, the PPPs. It can shift them from a comfortable scenario to a very fragile plurality. And certainly, if this sort of low turnout occurs in strongholds, it would definitely mean that, as Leland has said, that the PPP voters have sort of withheld their endorsement of the party. So we'll wait to see what the final things are. But certainly, it moves them from. It increases the likelihood of a very fragile plurality.
And I guess, Professor, what I was trying to, one comment I made as well, a higher turnout, would that mean a more of a challenging chance of having a majority?
Well, an 80% turnout is like a double-edged sword. In a sense, it can kind of boost the legitimacy, but it raises the bar because now you have more valid votes, and you still have the same 65 seats, and so it raises the cost of a seat. And so in this way, it would squeeze the smaller parties. The question you'd have to ask is, like, where does the turnout surge come from? So does it come from the, PPP's kind of bastions, or does it come in the urban base, or is it spread out over the map, right? So, what we can say positively is that a high turnout would reflect the will of a deeply engaged people. But what I don't think we can sort of like, I think it's more clear with a low turnout. With a high turnout, it's not so clear how things play out. You'd have to be more nuanced in the analysis, looking at regions, looking at where those surges in the turnout occurred.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. And I just want to switch to Leland. Hey Leland, I know you've got your conviction and your conclusion and your opinions of the PPP and APNU, etc. And we'll have much more shows coming in the future, Leland, where you'll be able to express those views. I think tonight what we want to do is to be able to read into not only the data, but the social impact and the unfolding of the election in itself. And what is it that we could learn and build from here? And again, you would have the opportunity in future programs to talk about all the flaws, the failures, the disappointments, and even to that extent, if there was a success story with all the political parties. So I want to ask you, Leland, in respect to today's voting, from what you have seen and leading up into the election itself, do you see a dawning of a new era for us? Are we looking where we are moving away, or people, that is, all Guyanese are moving away from racial and party line more towards issues and what matters to them in terms of their level of standard of living? Leland?
Very good
Well, sir,
question.
Ghana is a very strange country where you're legally elected dictatorship. Based on the structure of the constitution, the real power lies in the presidency. Let's start with that. Secondly, I am so happy to know that this is the first election where issues have become a major factor in the campaign trail, not the pitting of the two major tribes in that country. It's a case of issues and policies. However, we have to go a little back into our history and understand this. Anytime the PPP wins an election in that country, there is violence. Starting from 1964 all the way to 1992 when there was looting. Then in 1997, when the PPP won with Janet Jagan as a candidate, it was none other than the PNC leader Desmond Hoyt who came out with the slogan, "Slow fire, more fire." And it was Hoyt in 1992 who threatened to make the country ungovernable. So we have had our share of horrible leaders. We never want to talk about Barnum, that's our next story. But it's a strange that when we have looked at elections over the past 30 years, 23 years of PPP, 28 years of PNC, all right, we have 60 years in independence now. Now ask yourself this, 60 years after independence, why is it that the country still get blackouts? Why is it that you still get water supply? And it's
Yeah,
such a shame that the land of many waters actually imports water to drink.
yeah,
Why is it that if you lose your passport, you have to wait 3 months to get it? Why do people have to line up at 5 o'clock in the morning for a passport? This is
yeah.
a
Leland,
horrible
Leland,
situation
Leland,
that needs to be
Leland,
changed.
Leland,
Yeah,
just hold a sec.
yeah,
I have the mayor of Georgetown here, Mayor Alfred Mentor, Dr. Rose here from Globespan Television. I just want you to tell us how the election went today from your perspective.
Well, from my perspective, managing at least having that responsibility of addressing at least 30 polling stations and 30 polling agents within my constituency, as well as the entire Georgetown, where I have an overall responsibility for the Georgetown district in the party. I felt that in my personal reports as well as the other reports, things went pretty smoothly. My estimation, after I'm looking at some preliminary information sent by my agents, it looked like if you have about 40 to 49% from most of the stations that I man. So the turnout is not as great as I expected it, or many persons expect it. Not sure what is the reason for that, but I'm looking at those numbers as they will come in to be able to establish what really transpired. But overall, it was a peaceful process. But more could have been done by GCOM to allow for persons that have disabilities, persons that have physical and other challenges that could not have climbed the steps, and more could have been done by them to allow for those persons to be able to be accommodated at least maybe in the yards of schools or wherever, where you have these kind of challenges, and the CEOs or the deputy returning officers, whoever they name, they were willing to flex, but there were challenges by, I think, where I was treating it at a Winifred Secondary School. One of the assistant polling agents for the PPP was against those kind of things happening, and they were not compassionate enough to understand the plight of those persons and to allow for such an accommodation. So those were, I thought, were challenges, as well as the polling agents that work these different polling stations had the challenge of working, but can't vote where they're working. They were an accommodation for them to have an employment certificate to cause them to be able to vote, because I had the distinct honor of dealing with a polling agent, not from my particular group of my 30, but I had to be able to take them at certain places.
Right. Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, you said that the turnout was about 50%. At what time of the day you're talking about? All day, all during the entire day?
I'm talking, it was like that. It was lesser, but they had a little more of people coming in just after lunch. But generally it was slow. And when I looked at my percentage from the different stations that I manned, I would have seen the turnout was an average just over 40%. 40, maybe 45.
And could you give us a brief description of where those stations are? Are they in Georgetown Central?
In Georgetown, I would see. I could safely see at the Lions Club of Georgetown in the Lemahar Gardens area.
Okay.
St. Winifred Secondary School, where you deal with the Newtown and Campbell area, within areas of the North Georgetown, which is the sub office of North Georgetown, which is on Sheriff Street, and the Morgan Secondary School, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So they are within those boundaries that I'm talking about, where I man or I have oversight. That is the kind of percentage that I've been getting.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Norris, if you don't mind, I told these guys today, so they're going to be calling in periodically,
No, it's good. It's good that we could get updates from all the different townships. Certainly, it helps us to get a better understanding. Leland, if you want to finish off your comments, but I'm asking
sorry about that.
If Leland, if you could stay focused on the actual election itself, and what is it we could build from here going forward. I understand there's a lot of ills from the past, and and I understand there's a lot of shortcomings, but let's build from today. What would you say would be positive that came out of today, Leland?
The only positive thing, the only positive issue that would have come out of this election is that we have a third party that's very powerful. Never in the history of Guyana have we had a third party that has gained so much traction. The AFC gained a little traction when it first came out, all right, in 2011. But in 2025, the Win Party has done tremendously great. However, the outcome of this election will change very little, for the simple reason that whatever new policies any government or any new government will implement will never work, because you have the same people there to implement these policies. So it's a situation where you're asking people who created the problem to solve the problem. Will never work. Secondly, unless there's a constitutional change where people have real authority, where a police force is more professional, where the medical profession do not treat patients at the public hospital and tell them, I have my private clinic, it's going to cost you $500,000 for the surgery. But when we have contracts that are given to people who are qualified instead of people who are friends and family of the PPP, and we can talk about the TIPU contract, $850 million going nowhere.
Uh,
What I'm saying is
um,
that unless we have a change in policy, election
yeah.
results will mean nothing to the people of Guyana.
And I'm sure, Leland, we'll have more election cycle in the future so that we could deal with all these shortcomings and issues that you are pointing out. Um, just to move on, you know, Dr. Rose, you've been hosting Globespan and you've been doing a fantastic job at it. I must congratulate you on your timing that you've and efforts you've put into Globespan. You're a political scientist and you have studied the numbers and certainly you have your opinion. I want to ask you a question, Dr. Rose, if you don't mind. And I know you're the host, and I'm
Oh, go ahead.
co-hosting with you. But being a man of intelligence, knowledge, and an academia, you certainly do have information that could share with these with our viewers. And before I ask Dr. Rose the question, I want to encourage the viewers, if it is that you have any valid questions, go ahead and post them, and I'll be happy to share it with the panel and Dr. Rose. Dr. Rose, we talked a lot about the Afro-Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, PNC camp, PPP camp. We're talking about the youths. But there's a very significant part of our population also that which we call the mixed rates. In your opinion, I believe those numbers are circling around 12%, 15%. I'm not sure if it changed. But in your opinion, where did you see that the mixed race would have leaned towards out of these three political parties that's in the
Okay,
forefront?
very good question, Noor. The mixed race is the fastest growing ethnic group in Guyana, growing faster than any other race. In 2020, there were about 146,000 mixed race voters, and 104,000 voted, and almost 88,000 voted for APNU. So they tend to lean towards APNU a lot. In this year, that number I think has risen to about 162,000, and it got about 115,000 or 16,000 mixed race voters. I can't say for sure where they're leaning, but if you go by past projections, 2015, 2020, they tend to lean towards APNU or the PNC more than any other party. So maybe that trajectory will continue, but it is the fastest growing mixed race, and one of the most mixed regions in the country is Region 5. But having said all of that, it's a force to be reckoned with because they actually could hold the balance of power in Guyana. So we don't know what the polls were showing, where the mixed races will go now, seeing that Mohammed came on the scene. But it is my guess that a lot of them will actually swing to Mohammed this time here. Maybe about what, 35, 40% at a minimum will swing towards him.
Yeah.
So that's my guess at this moment. But it is hard to predict the mixed race because we can't poll them per se.
Yeah.
The names don't be like Indians and black names and so forth. But I know from counting the last results, they vote en masse for APNU in the last 2 or 3 elections. So I think that trend might continue, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I have one more question for Professor Blackman, and Dr. Rose, you could take over right after that. Professor Blackman, here I am asking a question on a day like today, a very important day in the history of Guyana on the mixed race, when in fact questions like those should not even be part of our vocabulary or shouldn't even be part of our narrative. The fact is it is, though, because of our history. But Mr. Manza was on Globespan with Dr. Rose about a month ago, and she pointed out another rise of what could be an existential threat towards the Guyanese population as we know them, and that is the Venezuelan aspect. They talked about over 100,000 people, Venezuelans being in Guyana. So probably in the next election cycle, we would see a very big voting blocks coming in from the Venezuelan. Dr. Blackman, in your wisdom, what would you share with the Guyanese people that we really need to move away from the Afro-Indo mix, Amerindian, and move more towards our issues and how important it is that we need to put country over party and country over race?
Nohar, it's quite interesting. I just reflected on early conversations that we had, in terms of our first appearance on Globespan. And I'm glad to see that you're still consistent on this. I mean, it was to, help to shape a conversation that took us beyond the business of race and ethnicity, and took us to a place where, we could genuinely think about the development of a Guyanese tribe rather than, the particular ethnic tribe that, and as we've seen now over many years, this is a very difficult thing. And, when people feel threatened, they resort back to their, their quote, their tribal roots. And I think the challenge is, and if I take Leland's observation seriously, this was my observation in looking at this. I had the sense in a way that there was something new wanting to be born, and that is being reflected in the candidacy of Mr. Mohammed. You know, he spoke directly to issues of, look, we know, speak directly to racial issues, but did them in a very matter-of-fact and normal way, where everyone there understood that those were, that it was more about people's humanity than it was about the sort of racial dimension. And I think that this is the hurdle that we have to climb. There are challenges. I mean, the mayor just described, the questions having to do with persons with disabilities trying to vote. And there is a legitimate, everyone here who lives in the United States, we walk around, we see the curbs are cut. We make curb cuts so that people can use wheelchairs across them, and they're built in to our environment. And so there's a sense in which societies make accommodations for people in the societies who don't do certain things. And I think there is a moment here for us, and hopefully, we're being led this way by the younger people with their energy and their recognition that, a better Guyana is possible, a better Guyana beyond the sort of racial Guyana is possible, a better Guyana beyond the kind of constant fighting with each other is possible. Indo-Guyanese and Afro-Guyanese will continue to be a part of Guyana. We will absorb more people, Venezuelans, Haitians, Bangladeshis, etc. And either we make a new forward-looking country, or we continue to live in this old way where we're at each other's throat and we can't make a plan for 10 years. And I think that, it seems to me I'm mildly optimistic, given this emergence of what I see clearly as a third block, that the negotiation that will be necessary is slowly coming to hand.
Thank you, Dr. Bachman. Thank you so much. And we have Dr. Vishnu Bisram on. He's just joined us from Guyana. He's been on the ground for the past few days. He was good enough to give us an update Friday evening. Dr. Bisram, could you give us an update? What did you see transpire today?
Okay, so I think the voting went quite well. I visited several polling stations in the Georgetown area, West Bank, and West Coast. The turnout was the polling itself was quite slow and low. The turnout was low, substantially low, lower than what I'd expected. I had expected at least about 70%. I don't think it's even close to that number. It may be just over 60%. We are only estimating at this point in time. I was there for several elections, and this evening when I went around 4:00, the places were empty. The polling stations were literally empty. There was nothing to be done. So that essentially tells you that, unlike in previous years where you had to wait for maybe an hour or more for the polling stations to close after 6, this election here, it was closed on time, I think, pretty much. The trend generally is that all of the political parties, I think, suffered from lower turnout. But I believe that the PPP was able to get its base out and the APNU and Win were not able to get their base out, but we are not certain what the Win base is. I mean, traditionally, we know what the PNC, APNU, and PPP bases were, but in terms of Win, it's very, very difficult to determine who is the Win base, especially on the coast. Many people project that the wind base could be in the interior. And again, I'm not familiar with what has took place in the interior, but I do know that on the coast, I think the PPP will prevail with a substantial number of seats on the coast. And it seems to me at this point in time that it should clear a majority of 33 seats that it obtained last time. It could even be much more than that, in spite of the very low turnout.
Dr. Rose?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bisram, for that information, but the conflicting reports about the turnout. Some people are saying the turnout is much higher than what some people are reporting because people went early and voted, and some went late in the afternoon. So it depends what time one goes there, but we will know when GCOM gives us the results. GCOM is saying that they expect the turnout to between 78 to 80%. So we don't know how accurate that is.
Also, it depends on the polling stations, because the ones I observed, the turnout could have been low, whereas the others, they could have been substantially higher. But in queries with people that I know throughout the coastal area, I was told that the turnout was quite low nationwide on the coastal area.
And Bisram, just for clarity purpose, when you say coastal area, that's region 3.
Yeah, we are talking about 2, 3, 4, 5, and
2, 3, 4, and 5,
and 6.
and 6. Okay, and the exit poll that you were indicating to you, it'll be a PPP majority. That's your exit
Well,
poll?
I wouldn't call it an exit poll, but based on the trends that I've seen and people I spoke with, it seems to me that the PPP has won.
Okay. Dr. Rose?
Yes, it's 8:24, and we'll know within the next 48 hours. Leland, I have this question for you, and this question would be for all three of you as well. Now, the election results, Jacob states it will be published around the 4th of the month. Jamaica is having elections on the 3rd, Wednesday the 3rd. And the Jamaican, based on the Gleaner, is saying that the results will be published. The results will be known by midnight of the 3rd. Why it's taking us so long to have our results in Guyana, whereas in the other countries, you get the results within the same night or early next morning?
I think that's a very good question. Historically, in Jamaica, the results are known within a few hours. I think in Guyana, we pretty much know what the result trends are. Is that in Guyana, it takes a long time to get the official results, because the results have to come in from each of the polling stations, and many of them are in the interior area where it is very, very difficult to transmit these polling these SOPs back to Georgetown, where they have to be affirmed or confirmed by GCOM itself. But let me just add one thing else about the report. I must tell you that in some of the numbers that I've seen, I think the PPP would have made substantial gains in APNU, traditional APNU areas. And the same can be said of WIN in traditional APNU areas. I think WIN would have also picked up some support in PPP areas as well.
Okay, but when you talk about in the remote areas, cell phones are there. They normally could take a snapshot of a cell phone and send the results to Georgetown instantly. That's what's happening in Jamaica. That's what's happening in other countries. The cell phone, a snapshot of the polls, the tabulated, and forwarded to the headquarters. So why we in Ghana can't do that? Leland?
Well, there's a simple reason for that, sir. Ghana is way, way backwards when it comes to internet service. And I'm wondering what happened to the $80 million that the President Ramotar's son was given to bring fiber optic cable and broadband cable to Guyana from Brazil. Because if we had that, then we will get the results within a few hours after the close of poll, because this is an age of communication. This age is called the era of communication, where technology takes precedence over any other factor. So this is rather strange. But GCOM, I think, is really trying to be overcautious here. And GCOM is also not quite prepared for a modern election. GCOM has a 75-year-old woman as the head to start with. GCOM has a bunch of people who are not what you call technologically savvy. They will turn paper wholly instead of going through a computer system and use a database and a program to get their act together. Secondly, in this age of social media, like you said, a snapshot of a statement of code on a cell phone will reach Georgetown in a few seconds. Unfortunately for Guyana, they only use the cell phones, his WhatsApp and TikTok and talk name. It's a very comical situation we face with. But on a more serious note, I respectfully disagree with Mr. Blackman that this is the most important elections in Guyana's history. You see, the most important elections in Guyana's history is 1968, that paved the way for the destruction of Guyana through the rigging of Burnham and the PNC.
Okay, we don't want to go back to it only. We have beaten those issues, debated those issues a length of time.
But this is not the most important elections, because at the end of the day, nothing will change, regardless of who becomes the president or who becomes the ruling party. But if you really want to talk real politics, let me ask people this question. To the PPP supporters, the diehard Indian supporters who will give their life for the PPP, ask yourself this question. In the days of yesteryear, when you all voted for Dr. Jagan, if Dr. Jagan was a black man, would you have voted for him? And as a spin-off to that question, if you voted for him because of his policies and his character and his qualities, are you transferring those same qualities in voting for the current PPP government, like Irfan and Jagdeo? Second question, right? The two major races in Guyana are constantly in a tug of war. And if you are pulling one side and the next side is pulling in the opposite direction, you will not make progress like that. And they don't seem to be able to get along. 60 years after independence, there is still a lot of strife in promotion, in contract awarding, and in the procurement commission process, in the natural resource fund process. Everything is a pro-PPP, pro-government issue. It's a one-sided show right now. So I would like to quote the words of Rodney King, the famous infamous 1992 beating in Los Angeles that caused over $2 billion in damages.
Okay.
Rodney King asks a very simple question. Why can't we all get along?
Okay, great. Dr. Blackman, I will ask you the same question. Why is it taking us so long? And let us please focus on the question and not deviate, folks. Why is it taking us so long to get results here in Guyana, whereas the Caribbean countries get results almost the same night, by midnight, early next morning?
I think my colleagues have been, it speaks to both the mechanics of our electoral process and, the deeper deficit of trust in our political culture, right? So, the mechanics of the process, we have an elections that has this, regional, national top-up seats. We have these SOPs get collated at some regional place. We have to reconcile these ballots across our 10 regions. It's a logistically heavy task, right? All the statement of polls have to be done in the appropriate way. They also, we don't rely on an electronic system. So we're a manually counting system. We have strong party presence at every stage, because of the trust that we don't have in each other. So each side is there demanding kind of transparency. So everything has to be double checked. That slows things down, but it's intended to safeguard the accuracy of the thing, right? And this deep political polarization, I think it means that these elections are fiercely contested, right? It means that, like Leland is pointing out, he's still contesting an election from 1968, right? I was born in 1968. He's still contesting that election. Objections. He probably wants a recount at this moment, and there's probably a court injunction somewhere. so these things we've seen in 2020, they draw things out for 5 months. But also, I should say that, like GCOM is institutionally weak, right? It's not as efficient as it needs to be. Its internal credibility, and it's able, it sometimes appears that there's partisan influence there. So this institutional fragility at GCOM also means that the process, things that should be routine, often become sort of bogged down. Having said that, I have to say that, again, commend GCOM and all of the people who were there, because of what we've seen today was in all intents and purposes, we're far away, but what we've seen there is a fairly rational and reasonable process, right? But it is our
Mr. Blackman, that's an overkill. 3 days for results.
No, well, I mean,
Okay,
you're still
okay.
counting from 1968,
Okay,
right? So, I mean,
okay.
why is it overkill to wait 3 days? Let everyone
Folks, okay,
do
I
the
got the
arithmetic.
answer.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this question, Dr. Blackman. If there's a hung parliament, because we don't know the people voted, people could go in from the PEP districts and say, yes, they go in and vote, it's seen from PEP, but we don't know how the people voted. But there's a question came from one of our viewers. If there's a hung parliament, do you think it would be better to govern Guyana because there would be more accountability, more transparency, and better governance?
Yes, I actually asked this question of some people before. I said, suppose, I mean, one could reasonably see, Dr. Vishnu Bisram has a slightly different view, but one could see two of these parties ending up with exactly the same number of seats in parliament. And I mean, I've modeled some scenarios, and in some scenarios, there's some probability of something of that sort. What happens then? I actually do think, going to Leland Ryan's 1968, I listened once to one of our others speak on this question of UC Guyana and this, he said at the time that everyone remembers the partition bit, but what was important about the proposal was that it was about co-leadership. And somehow I have this weird sense that maybe God is pushing us to sort of see some kind of something happening here. And so it might be a very, very interesting and useful exercise for us as Guyanese to think of the maturity that is necessary to make a minority government workable, because I think, as all of us have recognized, it certainly will bring more accountability to the process, and more accountability to the process, I think, is a very good thing, and I think it serves the interest of Guyana better. So
I just got a
I
result
would,
here from poll that says up the east coast of the Marara. It says give APNU, I don't know what district is this, APNU 31 votes, PP 29 votes, and WIN 58 votes. But this is the east coast of the Marara. I don't know what district is this.
yeah.
This just came in. So as I said, we don't know the people are going to vote in Guyana. We can say PP is going to win, APNU is going to lose, WIN is going to lose, but I can't make that prediction because people could be voting from different areas, but when they get to the poll, they might vote for someone else. And if this poll is any indication, they said East Coast Demerit, I don't know what part of East Coast Demerit it is. So it shows something different from what we are expecting. Now, you were saying, Dr. Blackman, the question is, are we going to have better governance? Let's just stick to the point with the hung parliament, if there's one.
Yeah, I think that it is, we know the kind of governance we have now. And so when you ask the question, are we going to have better governance? We're asking, are we going to have governance that is better than the kind of governance that we have now? So are we going to have governance that, broadly speaking, is less corrupt? Are we going to have governance that, broadly speaking, is more pro the citizen? Are we going to have governance that that more effectively channels the oil wealth to Guyanese citizens, 50% of whom are poor. And it seems to me that we've had an experience with this kind of government, and so I see a divided government in the parliament, a parliament without a majority, as certainly possibly being better than what we've had before.
Okay.
So I'm okay there. That's unmute.
Noah, you want to jump in if you want? If you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think we have Mr. Gobin Habajan on, and after Gobin Habajan, I'll be interested to know what the political scientist Dr. Bisram has to say in his view. What if it is that the minority government will be better for Guyana and more accountability towards the people. But without keeping Mr. Gobajan on for too long, Mr. Gobajan, are you there?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes. Mr. Habajan, yes. Well, welcome on Globespan. We have quite a bit of viewers on, particularly on YouTube. We've got just over 600 people on YouTube right now. In your view today, how did it go in Region 6? And we're all much more also interested to know what the turnouts are like. Give us a quick overview, Mr. Habajan.
Well, the polling station opened at 6 this morning across the region, and approximately 420 plus polling station. I would have visited most of that. The voting turnout, GCOM did a good job by getting everything open for 6 o'clock. And the people turn out at most of these municipality and the towns. They came out in most large numbers. And the countryside, the voters turnout was very not much that expected, especially more in the Indian areas, but the bright area, yes, we have a large turnout. And then you also have observers. The international observers was all over most of these polling stations in the region moving around. You have polling agents from different political parties. You have some of the small parties did not have agent at this polling station, but Win Party and the PVP Party, they have actually dominated the polling station with polling agent. There were some hiccups which I highlight. So I think the media was there because being a campaign manager, I was all over that, which I felt that there was rules in the GCOM system that from a polling station, you must not have political party touting, I think 300 feet away.
Just hold a second for me. I have Mr. Mayor Solomon from Linden. Mayor Solomon, can you tell us what the voter turnout was like at Linden? Low, moderate, high?
I would say moderately high, put it that way. I am at 2 locations, or had the opportunity to look at 2 locations, which I'm actually supervising one, which is the 1 mile area.
Right.
And those are the 2 largest voting divisions in the town of Linden, at Linden Foundation at Kent's, 1 mile over to West. And I can say to you at around 12, we had about 50% turnout in terms of the tally sheets. And as we close around 6:30, we just had just over 65%. So if you say we had 300 persons on a sheet to vote, we got just over 200 voting in most of those 11 stations at 1 mile. And we're now looking to see how the votes actually went in terms of that one, but they're counting at the moment.
Okay. And it was relatively smooth. I heard there was a blackout right after 6 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, right after the close of poll, and while the counting had started. So I know that the POs had asked for it to cease the moment until we had some confirmation of the lights, but it lasted for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's back on. So the counting has resumed. And we are now wrapping up a few of these 11 stations that we had in the 1 mile.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Mayor Solomon, any one of you?
Dr. Rose, I just got this figure.
What's that?
statement of poll, East Bank.
Okay. Read it
I
out.
got
Okay, Mr. Solomon, thank you very much for that information. Thanks. Right, thanks. Go ahead, Leland, read it out.
Oh, the one is there's a place called School Avenue 31, AFC 1, PPP 29, win 58.
Okay.
Ketley Primary, Avenue 21, AFC 1, Forward Guyana Movement 4, PPP 49, win 60. Kwakwani Secondary, win 78, PPP 27, Avenue 23, AFC 1.
Okay.
I think we're looking at a minority government. I'm looking at 30 seats for the PPP, which is 3 seats needed to form a government.
Dr. Bisram said they're going to get more than 33. So, as I said, we just have to wait and see what's going on. I have some other polls there, but I don't want to give it out now because these are larger districts, but Win has won in every one of them. So, I don't know what's going on in Ghana at this stage. Let's say the Micah Maikoni area, Win got 129 votes, PP got 71, Upton got 58, and the other parties got 3. So, Win is doing something. So if Mr. Bisram says that the PP areas, the people are going out and vote, and he says the PP votes, then it's not showing from these results. But we don't know what will happen eventually. We just don't know.
Yeah.
But Win has doubled the polling in the Micah area there.
Yeah.
I got other results, but I don't want to blur them out at this stage. Anyway, Mr. Aberjan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, Rose, is the same thing up in East Borobis Region 6. My personal take, being most of the polling station, actually 90%, is about 67 to 70% turnout in the entire region. The turnout is very poor, but like I said, in the tongue, the people come out in large numbers. I think there are some statements of poll we have in this region, and we are toe-to-toe with the PPP. Some area at Rosal, where PPP dominate, in some area we beat them there. And then you have even in Albion, we are neck to neck with them. We win them there. I think I send that to Nohar just now, so he can read those out. But we are closing in on the PPP in the region. Chances are, we are going for the win. I don't know where one get PPP will get 30 seats.
I got one from Skeldon here. Win 103, PEP 74, APNU 59, and that's from Skeldon. But I don't know which polling station at Skeldon.
Yeah,
anyway, that's why I don't want to announce these polls.
Dr. Rose, it's the voters, the young voters coming out by numbers, and being at this polling station, it went very smoothly. I can tell you that. But as we had some hiccups in the morning, this morning and last night, where our polling agents is being dropped off because they've been victimized or they've been offered more money to stay home. So we were in a bad situation, myself being campaign manager. So we were scrambling to get people to go at the station, but we end up like 25, 30 short because of what happened when you pay people out. But we succeed, we pull through, we get in our SOPs now. And some of the station we are flashing SOPs. Oriala, we did very well. That's coming in. So I think we're giving PPP a run in Region 6. So Bisram,
this is coming from this is coming from Bad Settlement, West Coast Borobis. Win 79, PP 64, APNU 29. I don't know what's going on here. So if Mr. Bisram is saying that the PP get a voters turnout, who did they vote for? I don't know. But these results are coming in. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, in a summary, we are going for the win, and I believe if we have a free and fair election and nothing goes slant, we are winning this election. I've been around politics 20-something years, and I went in the coalition and AFC. I never saw something like this where people determined for change, and it make one wonder what they're reading and what they're seeing, and I can tell you, most of my rally in this region, my approach was a little different. We didn't truck nobody. What we see was solid crowd, and it paid off. I mean, some of my colleagues cry when we looking at the result coming out from the Indian areas that we dominate in there, or we are close with the PPP, which they win. No political party ever have any vote in some area when tapped into that area.
Here, this one. This gotta be something else. Blackbush Polder South. Where's Blackbush Polder South? Mr. Aberjan.
Blackbush Polder South That will be between maybe Curie and Johanna, somewhere there. That's the stronghold,
Win,
PP stronghold.
Win 61, PP 58, Apnu 7. Wow. So if that is happening in Blackbush poll, then I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I don't want to go with these polls. We got to wait to the overall extent. But as I said, I will not go out on a limb and tell anybody the PP going to win more seats. Look at win performance in the PP stronghold Blackbush polder.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Harbajan. Mr. Harbajan, of course, you're close to Region 6 and you have the numbers preview at your fingertips, but I'm sure you're speaking to your counterparts in the other regions. Have you, what information you could give us in speaking to some of your counterparts? What are the indications coming in from them?
To be honest, I didn't speak with my counterpart. I speak with our presidential candidate. We speak often, and he said we are looking good in other regions. That's the word. So I don't know. He didn't break it down. He was concerned in that when he's seeing the numbers, Dr. Rose know where Tagore High School is, that next to Freedom House. And the last update I have, we are leading at Tagore, which is where Freedom House is. That's 63. But I didn't have the SOP. I can be wrong, but I will have it soon.
Okay. Well, hopefully, Mr. Harbajan, if you have more information you want to share with us, and if we are still on, I'm sure the viewers would really appreciate it. I'd like to read a comment from Mr. Mike Prasad. And what he said is that PPP with a plurality of vote is a positive development. PPP would have to enter into a partnership that would produce a government with some transparency and accountability. It's quite a volume that he said there, though. It should be for any party that takes government, be it WIN, APNU, or PPP. Accountability and transparency is a key factor that we all looking forward to. Mr. Harbajan, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We know you must be tired, probably want to get some sleep. You've been at it for, I believe you had 400 polling station under your wings. So we want to congratulate all of you guys for your efforts on WIN side, PPP side, and APNU and all the other political party, being AFC and also moving forward Guyana. Quite a day, very interesting. We have not seen what we have, what has transpired in the past. Mostly positive development in the maturity of our voters that went out today. So thank you, Mr. Harbajan. Mr. Bisram, could you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I really want you to comment, though. I mean, I'm sure the viewers will probably like to hear from you, being a political scientist, and you've been not only in the Guyana election. I believe you went to India when they were having the election. You very much are very close to whenever Trinidad and Tobago have the election. What's your view on the minority government? Good for Guyana, good for the people, or not?
Firstly, let me make one point, a comment on Dr. Rose's commentary. He is absolutely right. The fact that the PPP was able to bring out its traditional base does not necessarily mean that they have voted PPP. That was, I think, an error that most of us made. And clearly, the voting trends that are coming out shows that the WIN party has been doing exceptionally well in traditional PPP strongholds. It has also been doing quite well in APNU strongholds, and it could very well be that that WIN beats APNU in this general election. In terms of, I think you were asking about a minority government, what that means. I don't know if we are heading there as yet. The trends are not enough as yet, but a minority government was experienced from 2011 to 2015 when Donald Ramutar served as president. Unfortunately, there was not any cooperation in the parliament, and that government ultimately collapsed, resulting in fresh elections that the then combined opposition won. I believe the PPP would have learned a lesson, and certainly I hope the other parties learn a lesson as well, that in a government where there are multi-parties, in a parliament with multi-parties, it is necessary for the parties to collaborate. This animosity that was experienced over the longest period should really come to an end, regardless of whether we have a majority government or if we have a minority government that needs multi-party cooperation.
Y'all hear this one? Port Morentain, etc. PP 71, Mohammed 71, Apnu 9. Port Morentain, I don't know
Old
what's
one,
going on there.
the board place of Dr. Jagan.
I don't know what's going on there. To me, I don't even believe what I'm getting, those SOPs. But the SOPs, they're there.
Yeah, well, clearly the trend doesn't look good for the PPP, for a majority government.
Clearly, what the trend looks good for them for majority
I'm
government.
indicated that the PPP win an outright majority. And
Yeah,
now you're flip-flopping.
No, it's not a question of flip-flop. I'm just telling you based on my experience in traveling around earlier in the day. I was not privy to these data that is now coming in.
That's being fair and that's being honest with Dr. Bisram.
That's okay, Vishnu. But I'm predicting a minority government. I'm predicting a PPP winning, but not with a majority. They may get 30 seats or less. Win is going to be a very strong force to reckon with. Very, very strong force. And as we move towards the counting, I guess voting has stopped now. We are counting votes, shuffling papers, so to speak, right? We need to ask ourselves this very question, right? What will change in Guyana? Assuming the PPP wins this election, do you think Guyana will move forward from a social cohesion point of view? I don't think so.
Here this other one, Linden. Win 253 votes. PP 107, no, up 179. PP 23. Linden.
So Win is beating APNU very badly. I'm also told that on the Essequibo coast, Win is also defeating APNU very, very badly.
Win in the among the Amerindians, they're saying one of every two voters going for Win. I don't know. That I haven't seen any results from there as yet, but I don't know. Something is happening that we are not aware of as yet.
Yeah, Dr.
Gentlemen,
Dr.
I bet for your leave, unless you have any more questions, I'd like to go and take a look at some of the trends coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, and certainly we thank you, Dr. Bisram. Please give us a feedback.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Dr. Rose, I think though that we should out of the abundance of caution, we should also express to our viewers that these polls that have been we are reading or you're reading or anyone is calling in, these SOPs, they're not verified by GCOM. These are just indication or initials.
But no, but these are SOPs flashing to me. So they have to send it to GCOM. These are SOPs.
These are photographs
from different districts.
Right? The snapshots of the SOPs.
I think Professor Blackman would agree with me. Professor Blackman will probably agree that out of the abundance of caution, we also need to, wait for the official announcement.
That's right. I agree with that.
From GCOM. So I think while these SOPs are coming, we certainly don't have no way of verifying them from our perspective. Go ahead, Dr. Rose.
No, but these are SOPs that they flash on the phone. It marks SOPs and all the signatures at the bottom from different parties. So this is what GCOM allows. But these are small amount of SOPs. So we can't rule anything out on this. We can't say this, it might be a trend, it might not be a trend, but I don't know. But they're SOPs, actually votes that are counted. Folks, we're coming to the end of the program. It's 8:56. We have just 4 minutes to go. And in this case, we'll ask everyone to maybe make a closing remark. Leland?
Well, let's put it this way. In Julius Caesar, we learned that an overkill backfires. Remember? And Brutus was an honorable man. Well, if you constantly bash Mr. Azrin Mohammed, calling him sanctioned man, tax evasion, gold smuggler, and stop the man's car from going to his rally, you know what you do? You make him more popular and you get more sympathy from the voters to him. So that is one of the things that Vice President Jagdeo should learn. Right? You do not insult people on a personal level when you're going on an elections campaign and calling people names. But in conclusion, I would like to say this, right? In that country, compared to this country here, America, where Mr. Trump is asking for more tariffs and more money for the people of Guyana, the vice president and the president of Guyana are busy giving away Guyana. Instead of asking for more money from the conglomerates, we're giving it away. But anyway, that's a sideline to the real elections. The real election issue, whether who wins, is that you can't develop a country if you have more rum shop than school. You go to Lenore and Horstelling and you'll see what I'm talking about. Secondly, and in conclusion, I will say this. You do not gather beauty by plucking the petals from a flower. The flower itself is beauty and you need to nourish that. That's Rabindranath Tagore, Nobel Prize winner in 1913. And my final statement is, democracy cannot be enshrined in a constitution, and it cannot be given by an amendment of any laws and legislation. Democracy has to evolve as a culture of the people. Nelson Mandela. I thank you all for yours.
Dr. Blackman. Dr. Blackman, your closing remarks.
Sorry, I was muted. I said I wanted to thank you and Nohar and colleagues for having me this evening. And I want to say, I think we're in for an interesting night. We'll probably stay up a little longer than 9 o'clock. But I think the essential lesson is the same. A nation will rise, when their people put the common good over partisan advantage, and ethnic division. And I think Guyana has been blessed with new wealth and new possibilities, and it appears that there are some stirrings of heeding this truth that, if we're going to convert this resource abundance into lasting prosperity, a new Guyanese tribe has to emerge. It can't just be, a red tribe, a blue tribe, or a green tribe, but a new Guyanese tribe has to emerge. And so it appears that our people are hearing that call. So, we have to build institutions, that command trust. Ultimately, it's about trust. It's about, I will agree with Leland. Democracy is not something to be given to you. It's a trust that comes between the people who are part of that society and the people who govern that society. And we need to nurture politics that elevates issues over identity and help to cultivate a culture in which our leaders are serving people. And I want to go back, maybe, as I listened to that, I was very struck, as I noted for you, I was very struck by, the Mohammed Azrazian style, just in comparison to, what was also going on that night, and, the brevity and the clarity, the freshness. I'm not an old politician, the authenticity. And, look, I'm not going to talk a little, but I'm going to actually concretely do what we have to do. Now, this is where I think we're going to have a challenge, is that, saying that you're going to do it and having the will to do it is one thing, but actually having the technical expertise to get the job done is another. But, that having been said, I just like somehow feel better about the way that this is unfolding. And I want to continue to encourage us to have the courage, create the conditions that make good governance possible. They're in our own hands, and we need to have them in our own land. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Noor Singh?
I would like to bring into our viewers tonight, this is the first time I've ever been on the Globespan program on a Monday night. But of late, I've taken up the mantle of hosting the Wednesday program. And there is a factor that I have been introducing into our Wednesday program, and that is called the God factor. And basically what I would normally read, that this is beyond me and many of us. The infractions, the inherent corruption, the short-sightedness behaviors are so deep, it requires God intervention. And I really want to say to my viewers, if you look into the rear view mirror, which which we have a lot happening. Most of our folks in the public domain is looking more into the rear view. You would find that the Afro-Guyanese are hurt, the Indo-Guyanese are hurt, the Amerindian Guyanese are hurt, and of all races are hurt within Guyana. Hence the reason why we need the God factor. For his eyes goes to and fro, and he sees the injustice of the people. And in saying that to you, the changes that we need and require and is requisite towards moving Guyana to a first world country, not a fourth world, not a third world, not a second world, but a first world country. And I just want to pause there and say it is possible because when you look at the accomplishment of Guyanese throughout the world, it is absolutely in reach to be a first world country. And for us to do that, it's not going to happen in the first election cycle or two election cycle. It may take us three election cycle, but 15 or 20 years in the lifespan of a country's history or a country's lifetime. It's a blink of an eye. So, my dear brothers and sisters, today we have seen history unfolding, one of the most quiet, mature election process has gone down in history in Guyana. Let's build from that and let us keep the past close, but if we keep looking in the rearview mirror going forward, we will crash. So I would say this and then tonight, looking forward to those of you who will join us tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. I believe we have Mr. GHK, Timothy Jonas, and Dr. Beturam Ramarak tonight, tomorrow night at 7:30. And definitely we'll be on Wednesday night as well as the result starts to unfold. But I want to thank all of you for being with us at Globespan. And certainly I want to thank each one of the contributors and those who call in. Let us keep positive and look towards a dawning of a new light for us. Good night.
I want to thank Mr. Noor Singh for making this program available, Globespan, and our two technical directors, Mr. Devin Bissoon and Mr. Ryan Gobin. And thanks to all our listeners and our sponsors as well, and also to everyone who has contributed to this program tonight. It's always good to listen. We are fair and balanced at work, and we want to continue along those lines. We don't take sides on either way. We just want the Guyanese people to know, or the Caribbean people to know, that they can come on this program and debate their issues. And we will welcome them at any time. And I also have a personal thing here. My significant half, my fiance, sent me a note, said I must tell her on the program that I love her. Roshana Ben, I love you. And good night, everyone.
That's the God factor. Dr. Rose, do keep me up to date tonight, no matter how late. If you're getting information, please do share it.
Well done.
I know. I got a lot. Devin, we're off here.